It was the 4th of November, 2025. Liverpool Football Club turned up to Anfield to play against the mighty Real Madrid and played them off the bloody park. They won the game 1-0. We all had a great time. What the bloody hell has happened since then, eh? Hello. Welcome to the Late Challenge. I'm Mo Stewart. Along with me is Gareth Roberts.
Oh?
Yes, we are overwhelmed. We're here to talk about another defeat. That might be the last laugh you hear for quite some time. Yeah. I was going to start with the whole, it can't get worse from here, can it? But I don't even think Mick McCarthy can save us now, you know. It's 8 losses already this season. But in a lot of ways, this one was the worst of the lot. I mean, we had the City game. We had 2 weeks to kind of get over that performance and then kind of build a bit of confidence up, remind ourselves like, you know, it's not too bad. We can still kind of win from here. We did the show last week talking about the positivity, how great we were at home and how this is a great opportunity to get on the front foot. And I did all my pre-match videos about going on the front foot. This is an opportunity for Liverpool to retake the lead and really kind of seize the nettle of this season. And it was meant to be a springboard to recovery. Instead, what we got was a belly flop.
Indeed. Yeah, it was poor. I think it's the worst of the lot, to be honest with you. And really worrying, really depressing. You know, I took some solace from the fact that I saw my mates and had a pint with them, but I didn't want to be sitting in a pub talking about Liverpool being beaten 3-0, showing no fight, no bite, no nothing. The manager looking fairly clueless. His substitutions making us worse. His decisions baffling me. Yeah, it was really, really bad and really, really sort of below the standards of Liverpool, no matter how you spin it or whatever you've got to say. And there is no way to spin this. Like, you know, it's a horrendous run. It's back to the sort of the days of when it all went wrong for Brendan Rodgers. It's that kind of form now. And it's really, really worrying. And, you know, I try to always be positive about Liverpool because it's the one thing in my life that, you know, I sort of lean on for the good times. And they're not giving me any good time. And look, it wasn't meant to be like this, was it? You know what I mean? I mean, I think that's what makes it hard and makes it worse. And that, you know, we felt like we had a good chance of defending our title this year. And, you know, if you look at the league table right now, you know, it's ridiculous that we're only sort of 3, 4 and 5 points off second, third and fourth. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
doesn't feel that way, does
Arsenal are drifting away, obviously 11 points clear now. And it's like no one else in the league aside from them is that good.
No.
And so, you know, like we should be up there. We went and did the big changeover in terms of, you know, whatever it was, 10 players out, 7 players in. And it just hasn't stuck and it hasn't worked. And you know, I think most worrying for me at this point is that, you know, quite a few things the manager's saying and doing are starting to do my head in. And you know, I'm happy to say that because I'm not here to, you know, do some kind of PR exercise. I'm here to say what I think as a fan of Liverpool. And, you know, I don't get why Isak starts the game because he's not deserving of a place in the side as proven by his performance. And when he's saying on Friday, well, we might have to put minutes in his legs and someone who deserves to be in the team shouldn't be in. I just don't get that logic at all. There is stuff you can do to get a lad fit that doesn't involve him being anonymous in a Premier League match. And the Premier League's unforgiving, as we've saw. And, you know, every game pretty much these days is a tough one because of the amount of money in the league. Everyone's able to invest in a pretty decent squad in 2025 and no one is giving you a free pass.
And he's been saying that all this whole time he's been there.
So you can't have passengers in your team and you know, if we start with Isak, well, Isak was one.
Yeah, he was.
And you know what really did me head in today, you know, trying to get my head around it all and trying to think about what I might come here and say and all that kind of thing and, you know, reading reports, doing all the stuff I always do. And I thought, this really does sum up where we are and how mad it is at the moment. So I read this piece and in among this piece there was this stat and I was like, this does feel like an alternative reality. This does feel like the Truman Show, like someone's taking the piss out of us from above or something. Because there's loads of stats. You've got them all there, all the horrible...
We're going to come to those in a minute.
The horrible ones that make you choke. But get on this one. This was Arne Slot's 50th league game in charge of Liverpool, and no manager in the club's history has won more 31 in their first 50 games. So he was so good last season, and and despite this really bad run, he still racked up the best ever start in 50 games of a Liverpool manager. That's just wild.
It is nuts. And I think that's the kind of thing that it helps to remember, because we were amazing last year, but we did also win 6 games earlier this season.
Yeah.
But I mean, we what we always do with the show is we'll have an agenda and we'll say we're going to talk about this and talk about this and talk about this, and one of us will put it in order, and then we'll just start trying shit out of order. So you mentioned Isak. Let's dive into the Isak bit, because it wasn't so much just the fact that he was anonymous. Like, I think his first touch was the 17th minute. He had 1 shot, 2 touches in the box. I think 9 passes to him in total. But I was sitting next to Natasha Dowie doing the commentary for LFC TV, watching the game, and she's a striker.
Yeah.
And she was doing her nut watching him. Not just because of the fact that he wasn't in the game, it's that he didn't look like he was trying to get into the game. There are certain things you do as a striker. When the ball's crossed into the box, you've got to try and get across the front of your man.
Meant to be there.
Yeah, but there were so many times. I mean, so the chance that Salah when Salah does a brilliant run and he puts the ball across and it ends up going to Kirkes, he should have been there. There are quite a few times where the ball comes in and he's on his heels. He's not looking when the ball's coming in. He's not trying to get in front of an attacker. And look, obviously we know physically he's not at his best. That was the whole point of all of what Slot was saying on Friday. I agree with you. I don't think that makes sense to me.
No,
I don't think you can be giving people You've been giving people a pre-season in the middle of a Premier League season, particularly when results are this bad.
Bring him on if the game allows. Like if you're 2-0, 3-0 up and he needs minutes, Sam, bring him on at that point.
And more to the point,
given the run we are and where we are and what exit. No.
More to the point, I think it's actually hurting Ekitike. Like, I think when he comes on, it was like, so when he first started the season and he knew that he had Isak ready to go behind him, he had all of that fire and gumption. Now, he's heard the manager say, oh yeah, well, he might not deserve to be in the team ahead of him, but he's going to be in the team ahead of him anyway.
Doesn't make sense, does it? And he's the top goal scorer for the club. I mean, I think he's on a little bit of a bad run, and he hasn't scored for 9 or something like that, or whatever it might be. Or it might not be 9, but he hasn't scored for a few. But he scored for France.
Yeah,
and like in general, like you can see him coming on, and okay, didn't set the world on fire, but he tries to influence, he tries to get himself involved. You can see him going, okay, well, if I'm not influenced there, I'll go there, I'll do this, I'll come a bit deep, whatever it might be. And Isak, we've seen him for Newcastle go out wide and influence it there and things like that. So if you're in the game and you're a top player and you feel you're being negated, or perhaps your teammates aren't finding you or whatever, well, do something about it then. And he just looks like a lost boy. I mean, I get when people are saying he's not had service, and that's I think some of that is right. And if you look at the pass map, it does look like he smells or something, or he's Billy No Mates. It's like these passing lanes are going everywhere else bar him. But then we're back to the sort of the coaching and the plan and all this kind of stuff. And just to rant away now, what's the manager saying to them, and what are they all saying collectively in a room for 15 minutes at half time, where they come out 45 seconds later and concede another fucking soft goal? Like, it's so frustrating. So and I've seen people going on about people leaving early and arguments in the stands and all of that kind of stuff. I've got no problem with it, to be honest with you. I'm the first to campaign and moan and ask for people to provide good atmospheres at Anfield. But equally, if you're on a run like this and the team are performing in that manner, like this club, is so good at its best because there's so much emotion involved, and because we care so much about it. So that goes both ways. And if we see players or the team collectively not performing to the standard that we want, not trying, losing 50-50s, not getting stuck in, losing out in general on duels and things like that, the same mistakes repeating over and over, then people have got every right to A, moan, B, gripe, and C, fucking walk out, to be honest.
And the thing is, right, there are the senior players who we're going to come back to in a minute. They know all of the things that the crowd wants them to do. They know it. They know how to get an easy win, even in terms of getting the crowd up. If someone just flies into something, now it might not necessarily be within the tactical framework of what they've been told to do or anything like that. But the times when there were a couple of, you mentioned duels, and there were a couple of times when players lost duels that looked like they were massively favourites for.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times where players kind of looked like they were not wanting to go into duels. I wasn't going to name them, but yes, he was one of them.
Gakpo absolutely shit out of one massively. And the whole ground saw it.
And yeah, it was bad. And these are the kind of things that alternatively are always going to go against you. And I know that obviously in the middle of a game, it's hard to kind of think clearly, particularly. So I saw Sean Rodgers make a really good point, which I think was really evident across the game. It was that once that first goal went in, it didn't feel like they were playing that game. They were playing the narrative. They were playing the situation. They were playing they felt sorry for themselves. They were thinking about whatever. Here we go again. All of the bad things that people like you and I, or people who are a lot less forgiving than you and I, would be saying about them on TV and on the internet and all that kind of stuff. They weren't thinking about the game at hand, and I think that plays a massive part into a lot of what we see. But I just think that is no longer good enough. Like you need to be able to say, okay, that was bad. That was a bad 15 minutes after we'd have played really well for 30. Like you say, get in the dressing room, reset.
Not even at that stage, was it? Because they score one. And okay, you can debate about the decision. I'm not really bothered about that, to be honest. That's by the by. But the other one that goes in is very fortunate that it's not given, as far as I can see it.
That definitely should have been a goal.
But also, it's just in the back of the net again, like so soon after the other one, and it's like fucking switch on. Like Konate's absolutely terrible this season, and he's absolutely terrible again at the weekend. And I don't understand how bad must Joe Gomez be in training to never get a go. So this is only in the league.
This is the thing, right? I think a lot of people didn't realise it when he said it, because he kind of didn't say a lot. Joe Gomez didn't train on Thursday at all. So there was obviously fitness issues. If he had been training every day, I do think that there's a chance that even if he didn't start, he'd have come on at half time. Because it was clear by the time we got to half time, it was clear that Konate was not going to turn his performance around. He
never does once he's made a mistake, as that goes.
And it's awful, because, I mean, it feels like we have to end up, like, we're going to end up saying the same things we always say every week. And it's frustrating for me to have to say and say again. And I'm sure it's frustrating for some of you to have to listen to it. But the evidence is there. It's hard to ignore. I mean, we've talked about it so much. And I mean, I think that as much as you can say, oh yeah, we've seen Slot make the substitution where Konate comes off, Gravenberch goes into defence because they're chasing a goal, and you can say that they was chasing a goal. I don't think that was why he got subbed off. I think he got subbed off because he couldn't make it any worse. Like, it was almost saving him from himself and saving the rest of us from him. And this was a guy who was literally last season was one of the best defenders in the league. And people can talk about, oh, well, he's always. Go back and watch those games last season. He was fantastic. He was dominant. He was everything you want from a centre half. And now it's just gone. And you can talk about form is temporary, class is permanent. Well, this form is long. This is a long amount of time we're seeing him like that. So I think if you want to be a team that's at the top of the league, if you want to be a team that's challenging for all the different kind of things, if you want to be a meritocracy, you cannot afford to have anybody, and I mean anybody, in that team for that long playing that poorly. So I think the only thing that's possibly saving him is if Slot decides he needs to play him at right back. Joe Gomez, this is.
I mean, we're just a soft touch. We're a soft touch right now. And, that's what really worrying me. And I said there's more than one thing that's slightly, concerning me about the manager. Another one is saying things like, lately it's almost constantly that we miss our chances, and the ones we can see go in, that will not continue throughout the whole season. Don't say that. because that is just feeding this narrative as though there's some kind of luck involved here. And you know, there is an element of luck in football. I get that. But not in terms of losing 8 games when we're not even outside of November. And to sort of feed this thing of, like, if the players are feeling sorry for themselves, which I think you can see, the body language is bad. You know, like a goal goes in and there's all shrugged shoulders and there's heads down and they're all, you know what I mean? And it's like, lads, you've got a load of game left here. There's an hour to play here, lads. You can do something about it, you know. You can step up your game, you know. You can try and compete with them physically a bit more, you know. Blah, blah, blah. You can let Anderson not pull all the strings all the game, which he did.
He was very good.
You can let Anderson not be able to dribble out of the left back spot around about 4 or 5 years. When he's beat one, someone should be fucking shouldering him into the stand.
Yeah.
Like, we are a soft touch. And so where's the soft touch thing coming from? And why is no one saying stop being one? And you know, the manager coming out with this kind of like, oh yeah, we're kind of unlucky here. That it's not unlucky to lose this many games, and it's not what I want to hear as a fan from the fella who is the leader. And look, I get that there's like, you know, there's responsibility elsewhere at the club, and you know, I'm ranting away about him quite a bit here, and I know that because I think it needs saying.
Of course.
But equally, I don't want him sacked. No. I don't think he should be sacked, not at this point. But if it goes on, then inevitably the noise will grow so much, the fans will start, you know, lots of fans are already saying it, lots more will start to say it. And things like, you know, it's Richard Hughes, yeah, it is Richard Hughes. It's the set-piece coach, yeah, it is the set-piece coach. And look, we were talking about it in the pub afterwards on Saturday, and I was saying, like, even if you think about, like, some people out there who, you know, love the sound of their own voice, pot kettle, I know, but like, we'll say things like, you know, saying get stuck in and saying character and saying this and saying that. It's not a thing. It is a fucking thing. It is a fucking thing. And there isn't enough of it right there, right now. So who is instilling it into them? Now, I would bet all the money in the world that if you went in half time after that, and it was Klopp stood in there, he'd fucking give it to you. And you'd come out second half thinking, shit, is Slot doing that? I don't know. I've no idea. But even the other fella that we had, and he's gone, you know, Heisinger.
Yeah.
You know, I watched that fella play footy, so I'm going to take a guess that he's similar in terms of his coaching. Van Bronckhorst has been linked to a job in Indonesia. So if he's going to Indonesia, get fucking Heisinger back.
Yeah.
Because he's got sacked by Ajax. And you know what I mean? Let's try and if he was providing a bit of that, maybe we need a bit of that in the coaching team again. I'm just hypothesizing.
I know, of course, and this is the thing. These are the problem is that some of these are questions that we will never know the answer to because we aren't there in the dressing room. We aren't there on the training ground for more than 15 minutes anyway. And so all what happens in the vacuum of real answers is pontification, like you were saying. But that doesn't mean to say that any of it is without merit. I mean, I think a lot of the time with Slot, because of the calmness of him in terms of how he speaks and all that kind of thing, people assume, and it's easy to assume, that because he's always calm when we see him, he's always calm. And he doesn't have that level of anger. I suspect that it's very hard to get to the top of football without having that.
Yeah.
So he probably does have it. But
is it London?
No, and that's the question. And it's not just him. And it shouldn't be just him. There are other players. There were the senior guys we've talked about. And I mean, we've seen Virgil, we've seen Alisson, we've seen Robertson, those three in particular.
Yeah.
We've seen them lay into people on the pitch during games.
I don't know if you've seen it. There's a thing, I think it was on This Is Anfield today, saying that allegedly, apparently, reportedly, whatever you want to use, Van Dijk did go and get stuck in, and that, you know, it was, you could hear it, basically. Good.
Yes.
Fucking
about time.
It's right. And you know, I kind of think, I mean, I was kind of expecting someone somewhere to say, you're out of order, Robbo. It's probably telling that no one is saying that. By the way, I just wanted to say thank you to both Brace DeVille, who's thrown in $20 and says, if we hadn't bought such boss players, you could maybe accept the form. My issue is we've been offered since we lost to PSG in the Champions League and loaded up on huge names. Mentality monsters no more, question mark. Grim Sleepers thrown in £100 and said, "This is for having to talk about this shite. Usual applies, half to TLC and half to a food bank. Please up the Reds."
Yes, no, I appreciate that. This is, I mean, we are very lucky in a lot of ways that we get to do what we do, but there are days when it doesn't feel that way, for sure.
So
the point that Brace DeVille made about the PSG game, I'm always slightly reluctant to talk about it a long malaise from last season to this season for two reasons. One, it's a very different squad last season to this season, and number two, I think part of the reason why it's a different squad is this was how they were trying to fix that. But it clearly hasn't worked. So I don't think it's like they've just not done anything and it's just been shit all this time. And, you know, now we're in the mire and now they're suddenly trying to pull the finger out.
There's no need to. We can all be sensible about this, can't we? And obviously plenty of, you know, other people in the media or whatever aren't. It's like the constant thing about the money spent. And it's like, okay, yeah, absolutely, Liverpool did spend that money. And so all season long, you can keep saying 450 million, 450 million, 450 million. But at some point, you've also got to recognise the number of players that went out the door. Yes. And then it's like, you know, and so why did they go out the door? Well, Trent went out the door because he wanted to. And whatever you think of him, and we've done that to death, so we're not doing it again, but he was quite clearly a good player and influential in the side. We've now lost him and don't have someone who plays football like him in the side. Same goes to Diaz.
Yep.
Diaz was the outlet. Diaz was the man who, in a game like Saturday, you give the ball to, and he runs and he runs and he runs and he keeps going and he keeps taking defenders on, and he's a pain in the arse. He scored a great goal the other week where he's kept it in on the line, scored from an unbelievable angle, and you're watching it and you're looking at his figures that he's turning out in Bayern Munich and saying, "Fucking hell, I wish he stayed." He didn't want to stay.
No, that's the thing. He wanted to leave the season before, we should point out. But I mean, speaking of Luis Diaz, I mean, if you've seen the tackle that he put in the Champions League that's got him suspended, that was also the kind of thing that we could have done with on Saturday, without talking about someone getting angry and just doing something out of just to feel something almost. That was the kind of thing that we were talking about. Now we're going to go and kind of dissect the whole manager's position, because you've kind of mentioned it there, but we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into all of that, because you're all right to say that even amongst the more rational people, the question is coming up. Like, almost every single group chat I'm in, someone has either outright said it or raised the question. So as reasonable, sensible people, we are going to tackle the question at some point in this show. But before we get to that, you mentioned some stats. Let's get into it. I did say a couple of weeks ago that we were going to have our Andrew Beasley stat of the week, because Andrew Beasley always comes up with great stats. But it feels like we could almost call this the Beasley Bummer, because none of these are going to make you feel any better. So here we go. Liverpool lost by 3 goals in the league at Anfield for just the 4th time in the Premier League era. Only the 3rd with fans present. Obviously, we don't count that City game because it was awful. The Reds have won every league match in which they've scored first this season and lost every time they've gone behind. Now, I'll say that again. Every time Liverpool score the first goal, they win. Every time they don't, they lose.
Fucking mad, though.
Like, every single time. We've played 18 games.
And no, it's no point someone losing position as well, isn't it?
No.
Obviously.
No.
Which again, it's like, you know, when people are using the thing like mentality monsters, we can see what, you know, i.e., where's that gone?
Yeah.
Well, that has gone. Like, you know, what is this? And, you know, it's that hard, isn't it? It's like, you know, you can't. I was trying to think about it today, because obviously I read your agenda and you were going to be talking about it, and I was thinking, everyone's trying to, like, you know, looking for like a silver bullet, like, you know, it's this.
Yes.
And it's just lots of things, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And that, I think that's the problem. And, you know, like, if you're, like, you know, I'm messaging Mo the other day saying about a song that was stuck in my head for 2 hours between 3:15 a.m. and 5:15 a.m, which wasn't ideal. Imagine being Slot. Imagine what his head's like now.
Yeah, the song that's in his head between 3:15 and 5:15 is "You're Getting Sacked in the Morning."
But, you know, like, you'd be thinking, well, he's not in form and he's doing it, and I don't rate him, and he's not that good, and I know he's a right back, but he's probably not good enough to play 90 minutes for Liverpool, and he's injured, and why is he not doing that? And you know what I thought was weird? I didn't actually watch the analysis properly. I just read a headline from it, and I thought, really? I seen that Rooney had apparently gone in on Salah again.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's weird because he played well.
Well, he did. I think
he was having a go.
He was having a go. And I think...
He annoyed the fuck out of me when he took that shot from that mad angle. And I was just like, lad, that was just never on in a million years. What are you doing?
Yes.
But I mean, I thought like, he looked like a man who was trying to win the game.
The Salah things were great. I think the problem for I've not seen the analysis either, but I think I've seen some other people talk about it. And it was the thing is that both the first 2 goals, he lost his man, or he let someone run off him, and that caused a problem. So defensively, essentially. But again, I think we're in the same situation where his defensive deficiencies are only ever really discussed and talked about because there's not the goals and the assists aren't happening at the other end. If he scored 2 goals and then those 2 things had happened, I don't think we'd be having the same conversation around him. But you're right. I do think that he was someone who it felt to me like Salah saw Nico Williams and was like, I remember used to running you ragged in training. I'm absolutely going to have a go at you. And he felt like he could have the beating of him. And it was a good battle. And sometimes he did. And sometimes Nico won. And to be fair, Nico was one of the ones who, I think he got the assist for that second goal. So he'd probably come off the pitch feeling like he won that battle. But
Nico Williams definitely beat McAllister in a tackle that McAllister should have won.
Yes, he should have. Absolutely should have. But the point is, you're right, is that Salah looked like he felt like there was some drive, there was some intensity. He felt like he could make something happen. He didn't, which again is a shame. But in the list of things that were wrong with that Liverpool performance, I'm like you. I'm not putting him anywhere near the top 4 or 5. One more stat, and this is something wider than just this team and this season. Something which has frustrated me for a while, actually, and I was kind of hoping that we'd be able to put it to bed this year, and we couldn't. I've spent a lot of the summer talking about how Liverpool haven't retained the league title since 1984, and it's about bloody time we have. So, I'm man B's again. Liverpool's Premier League position in the season after finishing 1st or 2nd. 5th, 7th, 6th, 1st, 3rd, 5th. Currently 11th. Now that's different managers, different players, different examples, different years, different circumstances. Yet only once have Liverpool followed up a very good season with another very good season. One time. Now, there must be something about that. There must be. It's more than just,
City lost in that. Well, they lose 9.
Yeah, last season.
Defending their title.
But they also won 4 years in a row.
I know. Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. It's like,
and they also have slightly different resources.
Yeah,
but that's another story.
It is another story.
When are we hearing about the 115 charges, lads? Any hopes?
I think soon. I think we're starting to hear drip feeds of it already, and I don't think it's. Well, I'm not sure what constitutes good news for us, but whatever it is, I don't think.
Casey says in the comments, or Casey's thrown in £4.99, thank you, and says, nice to just hear a reasonable conversation around the current state of things. Bollocks to hearing people shout at a camera. Did you miss the other bit?
I was going to say, maybe that's
there's the thing as well, and we were talking about it in a group we were both in, weren't we, where like people are, like there's someone who just like feels like you're just constantly spamming the comments there, mate, just saying slot out, slot's the problem or whatever, and it's like, okay, mate, yeah, I can see that's your opinion, and there's plenty of people posting similar on the internet. You're not saying something madly great there, mate. But it came up, didn't it, in a group we're both in, the argument of, well, who are you getting? Which is always one when it gets to a stage where people are talking about sacking managers. We're not, but we've got to reflect that, some people are. Something I've been meaning to do all day and kept forgetting, but I've just done it, was to have a look at who's actually linked with the job. So, unsurprisingly, Jurgen Klopp is the favourite at 4-1,
yes.
Which you would expect. Then Glasner 6-1, Iriola 6-1, Emery 12-1, Nagelsmann 14-1, Simeone 16-1, Herzler 16-1, Zidane 16, De Zerbi 16, Alonso 16, Pochettino, Enrique, Inzaghi, Silva, Xavi, Southgate 25-1, Gerrard 25, Brendan Rodgers 25. Okay, now and then we're getting in. Oh, and there we go. They always do it, don't they? They always throw one on to try and get someone to either say it on a podcast, mission achieved, or get someone to write a story. Trent Alexander-Arnold.
You're kidding.
66-1.
Oh, 60. Had to be 66, isn't it? Oh yeah, that's definitely someone having a joke. I mean, it is a very live point, isn't it? Although there's two things I'll say about that. One was very true, and just the names on that list tell you how seriously this is being taken, because it is just, people look at, who's been good recently, and just put them all on the list. But so Zinedine Zidane, right? He's been out of work for how long? He's had one job in management, and yes, it was Real Madrid, and yes, he was successful at Real Madrid, but without wanting to kind of denigrate one of the best football players ever, I could have managed Real Madrid to the title with that team at that time, to be fair. So the idea that people think, oh yes, Zinedine Zidane, who's had one situation of management, is going to come in and be able to deal with a challenge like that's currently in Liverpool, it's just wild to me. It's just nuts. But the fact that we're now into the but who does tell me that we've gone beyond the absolutely not stage of this conversation, where you just be like, no, I'm not entertaining it. No, I'm not entertaining it. Now you get into the point where you have to rationalize why you're not entertaining it, which I do think is a worry. Or certainly would be worried if you were Slot. But so I'm working on something. So I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's quite complicated. But I wanted to look at how successful is it when a big club, changes manager midway through the season, and not just changes a manager that they've had for a while. So it has to be someone who's been in the job had at least one full season in the job and then been sacked in the middle of a season. And I wanted to look at the big teams. So I've gone at the big six. So 15 times since the year 2000, 15 times has that happened, where one of the big six teams have sacked a manager who's had at least more than 1 year. And actually, if you look at the year that they got sacked in, 13 times, after that, the points per game went up from what was before. So in the short term, it looked like there was an improvement. But over the next 2 seasons, only 11 out of the 30 seasons did they have more points than they had in the previous year with the manager. So it might have an initial short-term burst where you think, things are better, but over the medium to long term, it never is. Well, not never. 1 in 3 it is, which is not high. It's not a good hit rate. What I'm saying is that a lot of time as fans, we feel like sacking a manager is the only way. It has to be the way. It has to be the way. He's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to go. Because that's all we know. That's the only thing we ever know in terms of, bad situation. Must get rid of the manager. But that's not just because that's the only one you know does not make it the best option.
It's not happening. It's not happening. So you all just need to crack on. You can fill up comment boxes and go on Twitter until you're content. But it's not happening because we know from the people who run our football club that they take a long time. They take the time. They're not influenced by things like this. TalkSport can do what it wants. Whoever can write whatever piece. Don't get me wrong, there will become a point, obviously, if we keep losing games. And, we've got 2 more winnable games on paper this week, but we're not very good at winning games right now, even ones that look winnable on paper. So, there will come a point, of course, where his position will be called into question. But I don't think he's anywhere near it right now because, A, because of who the owners are, B, because we won the league last season, and C, because, there are various factors that I think if you were weighing it up, trying to be fair, trying to take a step back and, not be emotional about it, you would put all these factors down and say, okay, this is definitely not going how we thought it was going to go, but we'll wait and see where it unfolds from here. By the way, just to go on a little tangent for a second, because it's been in my head to reference it at some point, We talked about last week about some really bad stuff that turns up on the internet that annoys you, like the false Bill Shankly quote.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the Bill Shankly in the clouds talking to Brendan Rodgers and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you've seen it. It's almost, I would say it's worth subscribing to the Late Challenge Patreon just to see this. So there's like a chat in the Patreon where, me and Mo sometimes dive in, all the subscribers talk to each other, blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty good. It's sound. And so someone brought in that in the week after that conversation, a lad called Jamie Owens. He said, the Brendan and Bill Shankly meme has taken a turn. And it's got me. It's got me as like the manager walking along with a club tie on, and in the clouds it's got Victor Meldrew talking to Bill Shankly saying, you're doing a great job, son, a great job. Really good, mate.
Yes.
I just wanted to give that the credit that was due. That is absolutely brilliant.
You look good in the club suit, by the way.
I know, yeah. Superb, that, isn't it?
That's amazing. Yeah, shout out to you, Jamie. That was great. And yeah, to be honest, like stuff like that, the chat and that kind of little community is really vital at times like this, because you need a laugh. You need to be able to kind of like break the tension a little bit. But you mentioned there the owners and the fact that they have proven that they're not the kind of people who listen to the wider noise when it comes to footballing decisions, and B, haven't really had any kind of examples of doing similar things. Like I mentioned, those 15 occasions since 2000 where a manager's been in one season and then sacked the season after. There's only one of those that was Liverpool, and that's Brendan Rodgers. All of the others, well, most of them are Chelsea, to be fair. But yeah, loads of Chelsea, loads of Spurs.
What do you think about even Brendan? Like I went to the Stoke game and we got absolutely tonked, and I didn't want anything more than him to be sacked at that point. And we had to sort of we were almost forced to carry on. We had that fella who turned up and was putting the cones out. I can't even remember his name now.
Colin Pascoe.
Is that it? No, it wasn't him. Who was that other fella? Remember that old fella? Oh, I think this is really disrespectful. No, it was after Big Col. It was like I can't even remember his name. Someone in the comments helped me out. So he turned up under Rodgers and no one had really heard of him. And it was like, who's this fella?
I don't remember.
That's what I mean. You've blanked it, lad.
Yeah.
But yeah, we carried on until, and obviously we know now the story that they were putting feelers out and kind of speaking to people and waiting for the right moment type of thing. I don't think we're there.
No. So this is another thing about it, and something that we don't know and that they do know is that how much you mentioned the spending, you mentioned all the decisions that were made over the summer. Like, how much of that was him? Like, this is the thing, like, how much of these problems are his fault and his fault alone? How much is on the players? How much is on the sporting director? How much is on the owners? How many of these big decisions was he driving? Now,
well, they made a big deal about calling him head coach.
Exactly. And they made an even bigger deal of bringing back Michael Edwards and making him CEO of footballing operations, which at the time felt like a very good idea and may well still have been a good idea. But the point is that while we don't know who did what and who decided what and who is to blame or who gets credit for what, they do know. So whereas we might be able to, or me might be more inclined to think, well, it's all on the manager, etc., because that's, as I said before, that's what always happens. They would know differently. Something else, right? And we're going to kind of talk about the state of mind of the group, because again, this is something that we've spoken about previously, but it keeps on becoming relevant. So we're going to bring it up again, I'm afraid. But the question, I think, is that the idea of changing a manager, is that going to help this group? Like, does it feel like a group who have, quote unquote, they're not playing for this manager? Does it feel like he's lost the dressing room or anything like that? Because it certainly doesn't to me. Like, there doesn't seem to be any players who are showing open dissent to the manager. Anyone who's, talking about how they are unhappy with certain tactics or anything like that. It doesn't seem to any of those things that happen when a playing group have kind of given up on the manager and are looking to try and get him out. I've not seen any of those things. And on top of that, we know that obviously emotions are running high amongst the group.
Sean O'Driscoll.
Oh,
remember that guy?
yes. He wasn't that old, was he?
I mean, I still don't know who he is now. Anyway, soz Sean.
Sorry. But I mean, like, I think that there's a certain amount of loyalty to this man who's brought them the title from the players. And I feel like they would probably feel rather guilty if he ended up losing his job. And
I reckon there's some things that will be, you know, I get what you mean about you. There's no like outright dissent. There's no like, you know, weird little stories dripping out the dressing room or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think Konaté's behaviour is not being great at all times. I think, you know, like sort of some of the stuff where he's like engaging online was a little bit strange. I thought his quotes about his future were a little bit weird. And we did it on here before. I just thought, well, listen, mate, you're not that good. So you don't need to be issuing...
bad time to be talking like that.
Yeah, you don't need to be issuing statements about where you are on your contract because, frankly, me personally, I don't care. Go, mate, because you're not good enough. But, you know, putting that out as poor form. A few people said, I can't see where from where I am on the car what people's expressions on their faces are when they walk off a pitch. But there's a few people saying... there was a bit of a smirk on his face and things like that. That might be a little bit of over-analysis.
Yes, and so I was having this debate with someone online saying exactly that. Look, right, there are a million reasons why someone might have a weird look on their face. Like, we don't know what conversation he was in the middle of with that person or that person or that person. There are times when certain people, like, you know, when they're nervous, when they're upset, they kind of smile, or even they're halfway through a grimace.
I think there was one, wasn't there, where I think Mane missed the chance once. He was laughing at it, wasn't he? And it didn't go down well with people. But again, it's back to what I said before about all this is sort of tied up in emotion, isn't it? But I think a lot of people saying in the comments, and another thing what you were saying about, you know, not lost the dressing room. No, wouldn't say that. But is there a case of he will be pissing some players off at this point? You know, if there's more information about Joe Gomez, I think he should share what the information is, because otherwise, all these, you know, it's growing arms and legs about, well, it looks like he doesn't rate him, he doesn't play him. You know, Konaté's been in terrible form, demonstrably at multiple points through the season, and he doesn't get a go, except in the League Cup. And then people say, oh, I didn't play well there, so that's why he doesn't deserve it. But it's just the league, you know. Does he not deserve a chance at some point when he's demonstrably so bad? And then there's things like, you know, I'm no fan, to be honest with you, of Endo. You know, he's played a part. He's got that little sort of cult hero status thing going on. But he's being bombed out. You know what I mean? And there's little whispers of he wants to get off. We saw a little bit of that last season where he relied almost too much on a core. And there's definitely a different way he goes at it, because if you think about Klopp, and I'm up to this point, I've been loath to do any, we'll compare this to that.
Yeah.
But when you're here, it's kind of like you're going to.
You're looking at
it's
everything,
inevitable. Yeah, and now we're here, I kind of think there was a very different approach, clearly, wasn't there? Which under Klopp, you know, sometimes his arm was up his back, but he'd almost use like everyone, you know, and maybe that engendered a bit of a feeling of, you know, everyone's got a bit of a chance. There is a meritocracy. You can force your way in. You might get a go. Does it feel like that?
No,
here?
and this, which brings me to another situation I wanted to talk about, the whole right back thing. Now, I know that you and I are in agreement on this, that we wouldn't have played Szoboszlai right back in that game on Saturday. No. In fact, I think if you look at the options, I would have had Szoboszlai as the last one. So I would have played Gomez ahead there. I would have played Jones ahead there. I might have even played Endo ahead there, because I suspected that Forest were going to do what they actually did, which is leave Hudson-Odoi and Amari Hutchinson on the bench. So there wasn't necessarily the attacking, tricky winger for him to go up against. But you also look at the fact that Calvin Ramsey was on the bench. Calvin Ramsey is an actual natural right back. He's the only natural right back in the squad, because technically Joe Gomez is a full. Yeah. But it's like, I think if we look back to 2021, when it all kind of went in on itself. And Klopp was really reluctant to go outside of his main guys. He was playing Fabinho and he was playing Henderson at centre-half. Right? And then eventually he went to Reece Williams, he went to Nat Phillips, and that worked. Like, it feels like Ramsey could have been or could still be this year's Reece Williams. But like you say, is he ever going to give him that chance?
Yeah, I mean, he's made it feel like that is absolute break glass, though, already, the way it's being managed up to this point, which again makes you think, well, he mustn't rate him then.
But why is he on the bench? Why is he in the squad? And I think this is a valid question.
That's what I'm saying.
But this is a valid question.
I don't think he clearly doesn't trust him to play 90 minutes in the Premier League.
No, but he didn't have to play 90 minutes in the Premier League. He could have played 65 minutes. And then you look at Jones or whatever to kind of make up the rest of it. But I just think that you're right to say that there are some questions to answer in how he views people. Like the Gomez thing, like I mentioned before, the fact that he didn't train on Thursday, I do think is big in terms of why he didn't play him earlier in this game or why he didn't start him in this game. I do think there comes a point over the next 2 games where if Gomez hasn't started either of those next 2 games, even if Liverpool have won them both, I think that there's a serious question to answer about whether or not he does believe in him or not.
Yeah, what's the score? Yeah,
but
it doesn't make sense, does it?
We also have to remember that people talk about Liverpool and Mark Gahey and the failed pursuit of Mark Gahey. If Liverpool had got him, they were selling Joe Gomez, or at least sending him away on loan. It was never going to be 5 frontline centre-halves in the squad. So I have a little bit of sympathy with Slot because he worked very well with 4 centre-halves last season, and Quansah as the 4th hardly got any minutes. Whereas this season, he's got 4, and already one of them's out injured long term. One of them is in horrible form. So then you've got 2, one of whom, as we're discussing, we don't know how much faith he has in him, form or fitness. And the other one is Virgil. And Virgil was great, but he's not 2 players. He can't play on both sides. So a situation that worked really well last season, having 4 centre-halves, suddenly this season looks like a disaster and a dereliction of duty almost. And this is the thing with squad building, is that there is no hard and fast, this answer is always the right answer. Because if it had been a situation where Liverpool had 5 centre-halves and they were all fit the whole time, then 1 or 2 of them are going to be out of the squad every game, and then you're going to get players who are going to be upset, and how is that going to handle the dynamic? So there was every decision you make, there's a world where it's great and there's a world where it's shit. And depending upon how results go is how it's going to be seen. So I'm not going to lay into him on the back of that. One thing I would say, though, the injury situation in general, last season, we did give him and his coaches a lot of credit for their methods. Like, there was lots of talk about how Ruben Peters
keeping people fit,
came in, all of his methods about how great he was at keeping people fit. That hasn't happened at all this season. Now, are they not doing the same things? Or did we maybe give them too much credit last season? Like what is that situation? I mean, I don't think in terms of the intensity of how they're trying to play, there's a lot of difference. The biggest difference you could say is the fact that last season, because there was no tournament and because there was no transfers, they were all in at the same time. They pretty much all had the same amount of pre-season. So they were able to all get to the same fitness level and go from there. This season, it's been more truncated. But you can't rely on that situation every time. And if that was such a big factor in it, surely they should have been aware that this could happen when they were, changing so much.
There's definitely. I mean, it's an eye test. It's an opinion. But there was definitely more fight in them. That I think that is definitely dissipated, and I don't see that the manager is saying don't fight, don't throw yourself in front of balls.
No,
don't.
Not
You look at Forest there, and everyone rips Dyche for being quite rudimentary and all Dyche ball and all the rest of it. And you see Nico Williams get interviewed afterwards, and he's talking about, well, he's made his run and he's made his defend. It worked.
Yeah.
And you know, and what you saw there was they were throwing themselves in front of things. They were getting blocks in. They were more committed in the tackles. They were winning the tackles. But then not only that, they're going around high-fiving each other and slapping each other on the back. And it was like, you know, there was that like collective, like if I was a Forest fan, I would have been absolutely loving it. Like, this is brilliant. In fact, I'm in a group with a Forest fan over other aspects of my working life, and he took a picture of the scoreboard, not aimed at me, I don't think in particular, but just said "soz not soz" type of thing while the game was still taking place. So I sent back in the same group a picture of my fucking 2 fingers from the top end because
a mature response. I think everyone agreed.
But you know what I mean? It was like they were the polar opposite of what we were in terms of that fight, determination, block, and you know the space they've got to put them goals away is unbelievable.
Dyche made a point of mentioning that in his press conference post-match. He talked about the fact that it wasn't when they've come in. So someone asked him about how well they've adapted to his ideas since he's come in, and he said that it's not the tactical stuff that I'm most interested in. It's those things you mentioned. It's the desire to go out there and to earn the right to play. The things that we all talk about and have been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. And he made another point. It was like, look, how do you win a game without the ball? What's the things about, how do you go about it? Because you're not going to be able to dominate the ball every single time, particularly when you're a team like Nottingham Forest. So you need to go out there, you need to have a game plan of how you're going to win without the ball. And how that is you have to make sure that you're damn hard to beat. And that's exactly what they did. If you think about, we talked about how many times there was a Liverpool shot and there was a Forest man throwing himself in front of it. And not just like dangling a leg, as we saw, unfortunately, for Liverpool players against Man City, throwing themselves, making sure that they got them whole body in front of it. That happened time and time again. It looked to me like
they backed themselves to do that as well. Almost, they were like, you know, we'll let you have the, I mean, not let you, because I actually thought, you know, the way we started the game, I was like, well, you know, Salah looks like he's on and he's having a go, he's beating the man. Gakpo was having the defender on toast as well, and I was like, we're all right here. But to an extent, I thought they're quite happy for it to come into the middle because they know they're going to win it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because they're decent there. Do you know what I mean? But equally, you know, I mentioned Anderson. It's him who's on the line, who's clearing from McAllister.
Yeah. And then the one opportunity they had, so they were doing that time again. They go down the other end. There's that corner. Now, I don't know about you, but considering how that corner was conceded, in as much as there were so many instances of Liverpool players getting in each other's way over the course of the whole 90 minutes. But that was kind of like the embodiment of that. The amount of times where one person would have cleared it, or if there were 3 people there and 2 of them were 5 yards away, that person could have passed that one. But instead they're on top of each other. And then the Forest player ends up nicking the ball, and then Konate ends up having a heavy touch, and then it goes out for a corner. As soon as it went out for a corner, in my mind I was like,
here we go. Yeah.
I just knew there was just something about it. And you look at the chance, and yes, it's all about people losing markers and all that kind of stuff. But Murillo has a shot. Between him and the net, there are 6 Liverpool players. How many of them got in the way? How many of them even thought to try and get in the way? None.
And how was that a corner in the first place? What is that touch?
Yeah. Yeah. So look, okay, it's bad. That was bad. That was a bad game. We've kind of done that to death.
Yeah.
Let's do what they have to do, which is move on to the next one. So PSV are coming to Anfield in 2 days from now. Currently top of their league, on a run of 7 wins from their last 8. Now, yeah, look. We're not talking about PSV as world beaters, but they definitely have more confidence than Liverpool right now. There's no getting around that. But, and I, you know, going to caveat this with every time we say something positive, it ends up throwing back in our face. But Galatasaray aside, Liverpool have been better in Europe. Hopefully, the change in competition and the fact that this is a PSV side that Slot will be very familiar with, that can help to produce maybe a better showing. Is it even worth me trying to say this, or I don't know. We're in uncharted waters here, mate. I don't know what I'm doing.
I can't do it. I mean, I'll be there and I'll go. I know I would really like them to win, and that would be fantastic. But right now, I'm just like, I don't even. This is the thing. I don't even know what the answer is. Where you're trying to think of, like, you think of all the times you've been in the mire before. What you say when you're there, and then what you think produces a result. Well, one of the classics is always the team. They should be pulling all the players together. They should be having a players. They did that weeks ago. Done that. Didn't work. Okay. You should drop a load of people and bring in them and do. He's dropped Mo Salah. He's dropped whoever. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what. Honestly, I'm just like, I'm tearing my hair out. I don't know what the answer is.
No, I don't either. And look, you'll see so much analysis and where did Liverpool go wrong and tearing it apart and this and that and the other. What I haven't seen a lot of is people saying, well, this is what they should do. This is what they can do right here, right now.
Well, you mentioned at the top, Madrid, that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
Because that was great.
That was great. That
was fantastic, and it was like they went out that night in a manner that felt like they had a point to prove, and they fought for stuff. Bradley is not available, but was superb. Like, we're getting stuck into them. The crowd are giving Trent loads. The crowd are giving, Mbappe loads. There's a little thing on the touchline there where we were sitting and him, and I loved a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? And there was needle in the air. It was like, it's not happening, lads. We're going to beat you, lads. And that wasn't there on Saturday. It was like, I think we all went to it with like a level of trepidation, didn't we? It was like, we did the podcast last week, as you said, and we're like, we're at home, we're playing a team who were 19th in the league, we're playing a team who hasn't won away from home all season in the league, and then it was like half an hour, played all right, didn't score, and then Ed's gone when they go 1-0 down, and it's like, so now what are we doing when we go on Wednesday? Are we like, okay, if we don't score?
No, but yeah. So look, there's been one time, I mentioned before, every time Liverpool have won, they've scored the first goal, they've won every time they haven't, they've lost. There is one change to that, and that was Frankfurt away. That was the only time that Liverpool conceded the first goal, still went on to win, still went on to play well. So, again, hopefully, I don't think PSV, in terms of how they play, they do have some quick people. They do occasionally go direct, but I don't think it's going to be anything like the kind of long ball barrage that we've suffered with recently. They did only just scrape past a 1-0 win past NAC Breda at the weekend, who are 16th in their Eredivisie. So they're winning, but they're not necessarily playing people off the park. They only had a 0.57 expected goals compared to NAC's 1.22. So you can look at it and say, quality-wise, this is a game that Liverpool should have a good chance in. But I don't think any of us can really talk about the chances with that much confidence. I said we were going to mention the state of mind. I wanted to flag up something that I thought was really important. We talked about the game, the crowds during the game, and how often people getting upset at certain moments. You mentioned the Gakpo 50-50, and there were lots of other moments during the game where people were getting angry, people were shouting shit, like, come on, Liverpool, like, couldn't believe what they were seeing. And then they got to the final whistle, and every single person who I looked around the ground, who I saw who was still there at the final whistle, they were clapping. Now, I say this, and this is absolutely a terribly low bar, but at half-time, there was no booing. At full-time, there was no booing. Now, there are many clubs around the world where if they'd have watched that, they would have been booing. We've seen it loads. I don't think I've ever really heard that. A Liverpool crowd at Anfield booing Liverpool. I've heard them booing refs. I've heard them booing opponents, but I've never heard boos at half-time or full-time. I thought, shit, that's about us. And I didn't hear it again. So I think there is an understanding from a lot of people that as bad as this is, we know right now those players in red on the pitch aren't in a good place for a multitude of reasons. And there was an element of people saying, look, we're not deserting you here. We want you to be better, but we still believe in you. And I hope I hope that they can take something from that, because we spoke about it last week. Like, there is no magic wand. There is no kind of linear timeline for which all of the emotional issues they're suffering from can just go away. It doesn't work that way. But if they can think that even at this point where the knives are out for them all over the place, the people who they're watching and the people who are watching them right here and now still have faith in them, I hope that can be of a benefit. I really do.
But they've got to give us something. It's as simple as that. It's always been a two-way thing for me. I think, supporters, plenty left, and that's probably their way of showing where they were at.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen too often at Anfield, and it's certainly not to the extent it did on Saturday. No booing, yeah, and I'm glad myself that was the case. But I think Van Dijk referenced something about the atmosphere or something about the fans in some interview he's done somewhere, because I've seen enough people referencing it. But yeah, it doesn't really matter that to me. It's like, they are always going to get a level of support at Anfield. I do like to think we are a little bit better than you see in our other clubs, as you say. But look, there's only so much people can take, and 8 defeats and you're not even out of November is way beyond, way below the standards that Liverpool have set themselves over the years. And every single person at Liverpool will know that. So they've got to find a way, one way or another, to pull themselves out of the shit. And I think, like I say, you start every game afresh, and every time you go to Anfield, there will be a level of support. Expecting the roof to go off for like PSV in a group stage Champions League, it's not going to happen. No. I think there's a wider picture thing over that anyway, which I've referenced a couple of times, which I think they've diluted that tournament now, and so you're playing names, but it's not necessarily what it would be.
It's not do or die.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the lack of jeopardy. Like the Atletico game, it was a prime example of just like every aspect in and around Anfield, in the pubs, everything. I was like, it just doesn't feel like a proper European night almost, because everyone's got it in the psyche, even if it's buried a little bit and they wouldn't say it out loud. It doesn't really matter this. You know what I mean? Not like that. Do you know what I mean? Because you can finish 8th in this mad group stage and still, and even if you don't, you're in playoffs and all that kind. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, they'll be supported. Everyone will be there. The crowd will be there, and yeah, it's up to them to put a bit more endeavour and effort and fight and all the rest of it in. And if they do it, they will be supported for it. There was little moments I remember on Saturday, even when it was quite clear we'd been beaten 3-0 and we weren't pulling it back. I think McAllister put a tackling eye up the pitch where he did actually get stuck in, and he got applause for it. Ekitike did something as well up the top end of the pitch, and you were like, and he got applause and support, because that's what we want.
Yeah.
It was like, that lads, yeah, see that there? Do that for 90. Do that all years. Get that being a collective thing, not an individual thing, not a moment thing, a 90-minute thing. And, yeah. Hopefully someone's saying that too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure any of them are subscribers, but they should be. Let's end on something more positive. You talked about fight, and eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed your little pamphlet in the front there.
Yes, indeed.
Do you want to tell us about your little trip to Parliament and all of what that entails?
Yeah, just quickly, without sort of doing half an hour on it, which I probably easily could do. The Stop Exploiting Loyalty campaign, which has been going on now for a while, this is sort of the next level of that. So there's some stuff gone out today, which is that 116 supporter groups, including Spirit of Shankly, including the Liverpool Supporters Board, including the Anfield app and Redmen TV as well, have all signed this group collective letter, which is calling for a 2-year halt to ticket price rises across the Premier League. That's a crucial bit, because there's often an argument around, well, they're doing it, so we can't, we can't not, and all this kind of stuff. We're saying you've got a 3-year broadcast deal here, and you've still got 2 years left on it or thereabouts, which guarantees this mad level of income into the league, into the clubs. So you don't need to come and put your hand out to fans in that time. And then in that time, let's have a proper, meaningful conversation about, can we almost reset the economics of football around the people who are going? Because the people who are going and generating the atmosphere and the colour, the flags, the passion, all the stuff we love, you're losing some of them by constantly putting the money up. You're losing some of them by, making 18% of your ground corporate, as it now is at Anfield, things like that. So, it's not just about ticket prices this campaign. It's about what you potentially lose and how football clubs are becoming more and more detached from the names of the communities that they actually represent. When I've been going and talking, in fact, I referenced this when I took this document down. So this document was an idea I had a while ago, which was, I felt as though we were constantly saying the same things. Groups of supporters all around the country at different clubs have got very similar ground around what's concerning them. So I was like, let's put it in one document. Let's bring it all together. And then groups then can have something hard copy that they can take to their club, to their MPs, to pundits, to journalists, whatever it might be. And so that is that document, which was done with the help, lots of help from the Football Supporters Association. It's them who's got it printed and sorted and everything else. Took it down to Parliament, to the all-party parliamentary group for football. And good attendance, good turnout, got to do a bit of a speech, which I enjoyed doing, seemed to go down well. And it was all very positive. And I asked my own MP, I come under Bootle where I live, I wrote to him personally and said, I'm going to be there on this day at this meeting presenting this. It'd be great if you could turn up. And he did.
Nice.
And I was like, good lad. So it just shows you that, if you get off your ass and do something, you can make little differences here and there, and that can turn into a big one. And I think 116 different groups from right across the country signing one document is a big sign of, this isn't just Liverpool fans, this isn't just Spirit of Shankly, this is supporters right across the land who've grown up loving football, wanting to pass it on to the next generation, being genuinely worried about the direction of travel. So that document's about that. The letter that's collectively been signed is about that. And then us personally, locally, Spirit of Shankly and the Supporters Board have sent a joint letter attaching the national one to the club. If you're interested in reading that, it's on the Spirit of Shankly website. Put it up this afternoon. It's also on Spirit of Shankly's social media. Well, X. It'll be on all of it eventually. I'll do that tomorrow.
It's a busy man.
But yeah, look, I think it's something worth fighting for. It's all that stuff, isn't it? Don't let your children grow up thinking football's a TV program and all that kind of stuff. So let's try and retain the culture that we've got around the game in this country and not let people from outside kill it.
Absolutely. And it's a well worth everybody getting at least an understanding of what it is involved. And I think what we've seen from previous different campaigns, such as 20 is Plenty, is that when the supporters can be a unified voice, then it's a lot harder to be ignored. So well into yous, well into everyone who's involved in getting this to where we are here. And hopefully it will continue, and hopefully it will get some kind of idea, or some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of agreement where we can actually start to look at really what is happening with football and start to make it a little bit fairer for everybody.
Well, also as well, I just think, that culture stuff that I'm talking about needs to be recognised, because there's like this thing of, we talked about it on our live show as well about, there are a lot of people who've, this is, I always have to say the caveat, this isn't having a go at everyone from America, but there are a lot of people from America who've now got influence in English football. And I think a lot of them see, the potential of English football as being, well, we can do that, what was done over there. But it's different here. There is a different culture here. The way it is in ground, that passion, the tribalism, that kind of stuff, that edge, if you like, that is the golden goose. That's the point of difference. That's the bit that makes it not just the popcorn product. So recognise the fact that there are people who go through wind and rain, no matter how shit you are, they'll be there the next week. They've been going for years, 20, 30, 40 years. They take the children, recognise all that. Don't just say all the time, or don't just look at it on the basis of what's the maximum amount of money we can charge for that seat on every given, game. Because the point being, it's always been the case at Liverpool, and will remain forevermore, that when we play Everton and when we play Man United, yes, I am sure you could fill the stadium 3 and 4 times over. When we're playing Accrington Stanley in the FA Cup, maybe not so much. And yet there are people that will go regardless of who the opposition are, and they support the club and they put everything into the club, and they do so all their lives. And that makes it special. That makes the ground be what we all want it to be. So don't kill that. Keep football a level of accessibility to grounds, to people who are local to the ground. And no, it's not just about being local. But, yeah, I feel, I feel quite positive about it. I feel positive that we've got that document, that there's so many fans working together, that there are journalists as well who get it and are on board. And Miguel Delaney was there on the day. He was sitting on the panel at the front as well. So he'll be writing something up. I'll be banging on about it, obviously, forevermore. But if more people want to get involved and get banging on about it and do your bit, get involved.
Absolutely.
And Mo's hoodie is from The Art of Football.
Absolutely.
To answer that question in the chat.
Oh, right. Okay. I was wondering where that came from. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've probably gone over here, so it's probably time to wrap up. We're going to be doing more on
Dave's snarling at you through the glass. Oh, really? He's doing the wanker sound, no?
No, that's for you, mate. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to be doing more in the subscriber show. We're going to be talking about crisps. We went early on that. We're going to be talking about legends of music who passed away this week. And we're going to be talking about Christmas. Again, sorry, one hasn't gone away. But yeah, thank you all for coming with us on this journey. Hopefully, dear God, hopefully, the next time we get to do this, we get to talk about Liverpool winning some games of football. So we'll see you later.
Bye.